Oh, nope. There we go.
We're kind of live. Hey, we're
Kind of
live.
live. Now we're kind of live. Hey there, I'm Sensei Mish, and welcome to another episode of uh, DojoChat. I was just about to say Q Show Corner. I've been shooting a bunch of episodes lately. So, welcome to another DojoChat. I am here with Bobby Stroup. I hope I'm saying that right. Did I butcher that?
Yeah, a little bit, but it's okay.
How do you pronounce it?
It's like I always say it the same way. It's like soup with a Tina R. Stroup.
Stroup. Okay. Yeah, so I did butcher it. Anyway, Bobby Stroup. He is a fellow martial artist. You're based down in Eugene, correct?
Yes, sir.
Area. All right. Well, here, let me tell tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Okay. So let's start way back in the beginning, I guess, and we'll make this quick. I won't drone on too long. I grew up in a boxing gym. My dad was a box promoter, uh, involved with boxing, and so I grew up in a boxing gym around boxers, around martial artists. I had uncles. My brother did martial arts, and it was always something that I was really really interested in. And when I was a kid, being kind of a dorky kid, I had things like Shang-Chi comic books from Marvel, and like my favorite superheroes were always the martial artists, and I was, always the dumb white kid growing up asking the Asian kid if he knew martial arts, and I was doing stupid stuff like that, and I was always that kid, and I was trying to get anybody to show me anything. And then I moved to Eugene around 92, 91, 92-ish. I think it was 92. And I had a buddy of mine that told me about, he goes, oh my, you really love this. My dad goes to this class. He takes a martial art called Jeet Kune Do. And I was like, what the hell is Jeet Kune Do? And he goes, you've never heard of this? And I'd had magazines and Inside Kung Fu and Black Belt. And I guess I just somehow it slipped through the cracks. I'd never paid attention to Jeet Kune Do. And he's like, oh, it's, Jeet Kune Do is a Bruce Lee's martial art. And I it's like you heard the angels sing and that, oh my god, this is happening. And I was like, no, Brucey's got a martial art, get out of here. So the next thing that I did is I said, when is your dad going back to class? And he said, oh, my dad will take us whenever we want to go. So that night I went and told my mom I want to go to this class. So we went in and talked to the instructor, Richard Burrow. Richard Burrow is Dick was a fantastic, amazing martial artist. I miss him a lot. He passed away. I forget. I think it was 96 or 90s. Yeah, 96, I think. But Dick was an amazing martial artist. And so I go up there, and he taught Filipino martial arts, and that he was his instructor underneath Steve Golden, an amazing martial artist, one of Bruce Lee's original students, who I have had the chance of training with and talking with. And he also teaches me dorky stuff, which I'll explain here in a little bit. Um, but so I got to spend time with Dick, and Dick never really called it Jeet Kune Do. He alluded it was Jeet Kune Do, said it was Jeet Kune Do, but Steve Gold and those guys never really called it Jeet Kune Do. They didn't want to be construed to all the politics and bull that was going on with Jeet Kune Do at the time. So we were more of the Jun Fan Gung Fu kind of a group. We were more into the art of Jeet Kune Do as opposed to the concepts of Jeet Kune Do. So I digress. I went the first class. I went and just thought it was amazing, and then I did. It was my first even understanding or idea of what Filipino martial arts was. So then I started. He had the Filipino martial arts classes right after the empty-handed class, and then I was like, oh, what is this? So I made my mom buy me sticks and gloves and everything. We had multiple shirts from him that day, and I would go to Dick's classes and train with anybody and everybody that walked into that little gym that we had every day that those doors were open, for like sometimes it was up to 6 days a week, and I was there and there and there and there. And as time went on, my friends will tell you I found out about a little thing called the Ultimate Fighting Championship, and I was like, I have to know if the things that I do were worth it. So then me and my buddies got a little fight club. We started, fighting each other. And then it got a thing where other people would find out about it. They come up to Dick's school, and we would have they could just let us, like, it was after class. It was after class. We'd lock the door. People come up. We just kind of brawl it out. It was fun. And, so later on, as I was trying to train with everybody I could, I got to do some Hapkido and some Aikido. And then I got into, after that, I was a little guy and a terrible wrestler, but I started doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I still do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu to this day, off and on. So I've done that for like 10 years. And but I really found a place, or over 10 years, I really found a place where Filipino martial arts was kind of my heart. And so, again, I'm like that with everybody. I try to train with anybody and everybody that'll show me something. So if I find something that I think is super cool, I was like, oh, is there any way? And I'll take those people aside, and I was like, hey, I was like that. That dog that was in the cartoons. There's the big bully dog, and then there's that little dog.
Right.
I was always the little dog with all the grandmasters and all the masters that I had trained with. It was, hey, is there any way you can show me? Can you? Hey, I want to learn. That was really cool. Hey, let's go. So it was. I spent all this time, and within that time, I met Grandmaster Bob Suttles, and Bob was my instructor for a really long time. And me and Bob used to travel together and do seminars. And I got my black belt in Kaji Kembo underneath him. And Kaji Kembo as a family feeling is where my heart always was. I liked wearing the gi, as opposed, like, the Jeet Kune Do guys didn't like the gi. I like the gi because I like to have a little bit of that tradition, a little bit of that respect. And Kaji Kembo was always about Ohana. It's always about family. And I really, really have always kind of stuck to, I always went to the Kaji Kembo gatherings. I always went to the Kaji Kembo things. And although we were kind of seen as Jeet Kune Do guys and gis that were Kaji Kembo dudes, I still always loved Kaji Kembo. So I got to be a 7th degree in Kaji Kembo underneath Bob Suttles and Grandmaster Ron Pierce. And I got to meet some of the most, through them and through the people that I got to train with and meet some of the greatest grandmasters that I've read about in magazines, and some of the best martial artists that you've never heard of that were amazing fighters. And one of the things that I always prided myself on until I got sick a few years ago, then one of the things I always prided myself on is the fact that I like to make sure that I can apply it. So I would train with professional fighters and MMA guys and anybody that would put on gloves with me or put on helmets and grab a patent stick or even a real stick, and make sure that I was trying those techniques out, that I was making sure that I could do them, because to a little extent, I felt that it was almost a disservice that I didn't. If I knew the techniques but didn't know how to apply them, I felt that all the people that went before me to put their ass on the line, to put their health on the line, to put their life on the line, to develop these techniques, if I didn't know how to do it, I kind of felt it was kind of a slap in their face. So I was always kind of, I did a little stint as a bouncer. I did some security work. I was always trying to perfect my techniques. I have changed one of the things that MMA guys always like, trapping doesn't work. So I made it my mission, and I will still to this day want to train with people and show them my version of trapping, because I honed it and changed it over the years with boxers and fighters and people that weren't letting me trap them. So I've come up with some things that are a little bit different from my experiences.
Right.
And then as I got older and I got introduced to Grandmaster Bram Frank. And Bram Frank has really become, he's been a big influence on me. And he's been, not only has Bram really been, he's been a mentor and a friend too, and that's one of the things I think is with Bram, with all of his students, is that, that you can text Bram or call Bram and he'll be there for you. And he has always been encouraging. I've always told Bram, I was like, hey, I'm gonna take your module system, I'm gonna take something you showed me, and I'm gonna do it my way. Is it okay if I teach that or promote that? And he's like, oh yeah, please. Okay, I had a little bit of an idea of a knife design that I wanted to do for a trainer that I want somebody to make for me that's kind of based off of your stuff. Is that cool? Oh, no, go for it. Like, he's always been, he wants somebody to be out there to do more and to train more. And honestly, that was something to say. I had a conversation with Cedro Imperato, the creator, one of the creators of Kaji Kembo, which was an amazing time for me. I got to hang out with him a couple times, kind of almost alone. out smoking with his bodyguard Greg Harper, which is a great guy, and he got to tell me, he was saying that cottage kempo is like anything else. It should evolve. That's why there's a lot of methods of cottage kempo. It should evolve. It should become a little bit. That's why I always say cottage kempo is kind of like a traditional Jeet Kune Do. It was, it did evolve. But that was the same thing with Braun and with, a lot of the guys that I train with. I have been lucky enough now to train with Roger Agbelos, Guru Roger Agbelos in Mexico. I get a chance to train with him over Zoom, and I learned a lot from him. And the conversations that I've had with Guru, him and I, we sit back, we talk a lot, or have talked a lot. And he is really knowledgeable and really has helped me in a lot of those things. I found myself training these days. I try to get up with a group in Portland, do Balintawak. I think Balintawak is an amazing stick art, and I really, really enjoy it. Again, I train in a couple of different places and teach at a couple of different places. I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu at the Emerald Valley Mat Club on River Road, Eugene. I do at Grey Wolf. Grey Wolf Jiu-Jitsu on the road. Professor Mike Yee is an amazing instructor. Emerald Valley Mat Club is under Fabiano Scherner, Portland, and Professor Mike Yee is underneath Babalu Sabral. So it's really good company. It's really good jiu-jitsu. And those guys will let me geek out. Those guys will let me, because I don't do just like competition jiu-jitsu. Like they'll let me we'll do like MMA, and then I want to throw weapons in there. It's like, oh yeah, okay, let's do jiu-jitsu. Yeah, but I happen to have a knife on me. What do I do? And that is one of my bad things. To everybody out there, if I ever do jiu-jitsu with you and we're doing no-gi or gi, ask me if I have a knife on me, because more than likely I'll probably forget I have one on me. That's usually how that goes. So anyways, nonetheless, I think I winded myself. But no, the main thing is I like to I got a chance to train with Grandmaster Frank Dundas and Pedro Ratso Dill. He's an amazing guy. And he's been going through health problems. So my shout out to Frank. I hope you're doing good, Guru. But it's all these people that I train with that they push you to evolve. They push you to do more in the martial arts. They push you not just to be a cookie cutter of them, but to be you. And that's what I think is really important. And again, for me, one of the big things is that I like to lead by example. I don't want to show you that the techniques that I'm showing you, I want you to know that they work because I've done them.
Right.
So I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. I have, many, many moons ago, I had put out a DVD, and it was, I called it the locks of Okinawan Kempo or something like that.
Yeah.
So it had like 17 locks with all these different variations. And so it was like 40 different applications on this disc. But as I go through it now, I'm like, well, I can still do it, but I haven't gotten other people to replicate it. So it's not worth teaching.
Yeah.
Because no matter I'd have somebody who could, they could get somebody into a position, but they weren't strong enough, even utilizing pressure points. They weren't able to make an effective technique. So it's just like, it is what it is.
Yeah, I worked in bars for this last year. I quit working in bars, and I'm trying to go back to art school as my new thing, as I should have done it 25 years ago and I didn't do it. So now I'm going to do it. Going back to art school. But working in bars, and being a bouncer before I was working in bars and being a bouncer before I was a bartender. So I was a bartender for almost 20 years. I hate to make it sound that way because it wasn't like I was trying to be a bully or anything, but it was practice.
Oh,
it was
absolutely.
It was no shit. I got to do this now. I have to do something. You know what I mean? And there was moves that I would try over and over again. And if they didn't work, I would honestly try a technique more than once in a real situation. And if it slipped out, I'm going to go to something else. And if it didn't work, like 2 or 3 times, well, I guess I'll just that one's gone. You know what I mean? So there are some things that over the years, pulled a Bruce Lee, and it didn't work for me. Not that it didn't work. There are still some techniques that I will teach that didn't necessarily work for me, but I know that they worked for other people.
Right.
So I'll still teach them because maybe it worked for you.
Yeah.
It just didn't work for me. Maybe my tactic was on, my footwork was wrong. Maybe the situation was just off. I often say that I like to teach concepts, not techniques, because there's been too many times that I've seen people, even people that are in a boxing gym, fall into a series of techniques. Well, that series didn't work, so then it fell to pieces for them. Whereas a concept, just do it.
Yeah.
Just do it. It should work. It may work. If it doesn't go the way that you planned it, go on to something else.
Right. One of our viewers said Susan McGee Faulkner.
Oh yeah, Susan.
Yeah, she says Bobby is more than an instructor; he's a friend and encourages all his students.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, her son Steven is my head student actually. He he came to me as kind of a favor from a friend. My friend was like, "Hey, his kid's in town. Eugene just moved here from Mississippi. He's looking to do something, and we, as a favor for me, take him on as a student." I said, "Yeah, sure." And me and Steven in the beginning, I hope Steven's watching. Me and Steven in the beginning had a very tumultuous friendship and relationship. There were times I was like, "Just get out of the gym. Do not come back. I'm tired of your attitude." And over the years, we became really close, and he's like a brother to me. He's been with me, I don't know, about 10 years or so. And his attitude changed, the person that he was changed, and he became um, a whole lot. And he's the one that was a bouncer for quite a while. Steven's a good stocky kid, like he's a powerhouse.
Right.
And he became a bouncer for a while. So he is for all my guys. I always encourage them that if you're going to be in a situation, don't hesitate. Use what you know, the way that you know. We never go too far, of course, because you have moral and legal ramifications you got to deal with. But if you decide that you're in a situation, never hesitate, because hesitation will get you killed every time.
Yeah.
So he's actually, I've taught him some of the modular stuff. I teach self-defense seminars and classes with Sharpies.
Okay.
Because a Sharpie you can always have on you, and a Sharpie you can use, like, what do they call it, Filipino martial art, tabaktoya or whatever, the Yawara little palm stick. It's like having a palm stick, but I can keep it on me anywhere I go, no matter what.
Right.
And if you've ever tried to snap a Sharpie in half, it doesn't really work. So these things are durable, they're little, they fit in your hand. You can smack the shit out of somebody with them, and they work great.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. Yeah, I bounced for many years, and that kind of opened up. I think the first real fight that I got into as a bouncer, I went home and took out all the bullshit from my curriculum.
Yeah,
because it was one of those where it's like, oh yeah, no, it'll work. Oh yeah, no, it'll work. And it's like, no, it doesn't work. And so it was one of those where it's like, I've always professed, what I teach, I want to work in for real. And so, yeah, when you said that, when you were bouncing, that was like a testing ground. It really was. I mean, and unfortunately you do have those bouncers that they get into it to beat people up. But like you said, you looked at it as a learning experience,
Yeah, it was, honestly, being I'm still a little guy, I'm like 5'8", and I was always a little kid in school. And honestly, my first time actually having to have a situation with a guy, I think it was him and a buddy, and he was very much bigger than me, reminded me of when I was a little kid. And you get bullies, you get kids that are bigger than you that bullied. And there was a time when I was a kid that I quit being bullied, because it was just, you were scared, but you knew that you had to do something.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was, you kind of shied away from it or ran away from when you were a kid. And there was one day when you just stood your ground. And there was, not a bravado and no bullshit. There was that first time that dude was there, and I kind of walked away, and I was like, you kind of your testicles kind of sucked up inside you, and you kind of puckered up a little bit, and you went, oh shit, I'm gonna have to do something about this. And I was worried, I was scared, and then I just went, you know what? Rely on who you are, rely on your techniques. And I threw myself into it, and it wasn't easy. It wasn't good. I wouldn't want it to happen, but that was the one that happened again. But that was the one, that real one where I was like, I may get my ass like hardcore handed to me right here. And I came away unscathed, but I was limping away. You know what I mean? It wasn't an easy one, but I got it done. But yeah, it was years ago. 20 years ago.
Jeez.
Yeah, it was a rough one. But yeah, but that was the one that kind of made me. So for me, I don't have, like when I was bouncing, I didn't have much fear when the moment was on, because the moment was on.
Mhm.
Like you have to do something. You have to do something now. Go, 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 go.
Right.
But whenever I would, even with sparring, even to this day, whenever I would get toe to toe with somebody, I'd always have apprehension. Always had butterflies. But whenever there was a situation, even when I included weapons when I was bouncing, and when I worked at a bar, there was at one time there was the whole place would erupt, and it just was, at that point it was no fear. It was, you have to do something. You don't have time to think or be afraid. So that actually, it wasn't. That's where martial arts proved a lot to me, just emotionally, and not just physically, not just that my technique worked, but that was it was. Pull up your big boy panties, son. Let's go. Yeah. So I mean, obviously it's worked out in the long run. A couple broken bones here and there, but nothing bad.
It happens. It happens.
Yeah.
So I think I'm sure that you and I had probably been at the same couple of seminars over the years, but I actually didn't know you or really know your name until I mean, I think we were friends on Facebook for whatever reason. I don't know. And then you started sharing my Kyushu Corner episodes. Or I know that's how I saw. I think that was before we became Facebook friends, but it was one of those where it's like, oh, okay, this guy's sharing my stuff. That's really kind of cool.
Yeah.
And then I think that next Bram seminar, I think that's when we actually started talking a little bit. It was one of those where it's like, oh, hey, thanks for sharing my shit.
Oh yeah,
like, yeah, no problem.
It was one of the ones at Allen's school.
Yeah, at Allen's school. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember that. Yeah, and that's the thing is that I like this stuff. I try, like I said, I try and train with everybody, and I really like a lot of the stuff that you put out there. I used to check out Kyushu, Jitsu, certain pressure point stuff, really because of Filipino martial arts.
Yeah.
Because as a little guy, I really enjoyed, and I worked with my trapping too. Help me with trapping is I do a lot of guti. I do a lot of pressure point striking and just hitting the arms, and honestly, that came from when I was a kid. One of my dad's boxing coaches in one of his gyms would talk about, you got a guy that's covered up and blocking, and they were just talking about beating the shit out of his arms. His punch comes out, they were uppercutting the punches when the punch would come out, and hitting his arms and stuff. And you get a guy that starts not being able to use his arms, he would start pulling in and or not be able to even hit you because his arms are just so battered up and beaten up. So when I started doing Philippine martial arts, I was like, oh, I've seen that before. Oh, I got taught that as a kid in boxing. So then I was doing it in Filipino martial arts. So then I started checking out Kyushu Jitsu and that sort of thing because of pressure points, hitting pressure points and hitting things. And it was helping me with my striking. Because I'm always looking for, if I get interested in something, then I look to it to the point where I drown in it practically. I have hundreds of books on stuff that I don't even practice just because I always say I never want to miss anything. So it was twofold when I started sharing your stuff because I liked them. So I'd check them out and then I'd share them because I liked it. But it was also because you and I had the same instructor. So I was like, I want to support the people that I know. Yeah. I try and support a lot of people, but if I don't know you, I'm going to support it because I like your stuff.
Yeah.
And then if I know you and I like your stuff, then I'm going to support you even more. So it's those things. I always try and support the stuff that I like, or support the stuff I think is cool.
Well, I've always appreciated it.
Yeah, and I'll continue to do so, man. Like I said, I listen to them, and I think they're cool.
Right on.
I appreciate, and just you and I never really talked about that. I appreciate the effort that you put out for Brahm and us as Brahm students. You do a lot of work and effort for Brahm and all of us and training together. So I really appreciate that.
Well, it years ago, like long time ago, He used to have a birthday camp up in Vancouver, BC.
Okay.
And it was, of course, his birthday's in July. So, and it's like, he'd always kind of promote it. And I'm like, I'm really not that far from Vancouver. Like, it's a day's drive. I could do this. But then, at the time I wasn't making a lot of money because I've been in security for almost 20 years. And luckily now I'm in a position where I make more money. But at the time, contract security, that pays minimum wage,
Yeah.
And if you're a really good bouncer, you can make better money, but that's only maybe 3 days a week,
Yeah.
So it was one of those where it's like, I could afford to go up there, but I couldn't afford I could afford the seminar, but I couldn't afford the trip. Or I could afford the trip, but I couldn't afford the seminar.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same thing about becoming an instructor. I could afford the tickets to fly out to Florida because that's the only time he ever really had instructor camps that I saw. Or I could afford the camp. So I think in 2012 is when I talked him into doing a little thing down in Allen's. And I was like, hey, while you're out here in Eugene, I've been training with you forever. I was like, I really want to become an instructor. Can you put on a camp, like a makeshift camp while you're out here? And so he's like, you get other people involved and yeah, we'll make it happen. So, but when the birthday camp stopped, I was like, well, shoot, what do I do now? Cause honestly, every time Bram came in town, like it was be like, no, I'm either going to call in sick or whatever. I'm going to go down.
Yeah.
And like, there was one year, I can't remember what year it was. I think it was 2016. It was so my mom died in 2016. He didn't make it out to, what's it called? He didn't make it to Eugene that year for some reason. I can't remember what it was, but he did make it to, Spokane. So my mom's birthday is in September, and it was actually that weekend of her birthday, and my family was doing this big thing, and they're like, Mish, you have to be there. My student Thomas and I drove Friday. I had the day off. I drove all the way to Spokane for because he does like a Friday night evening thing.
Okay.
And then drove all the way back. So it was like 12 hours. I don't know how long it took us to go up, hang out for just a couple hours and get back, because I told my wife, I was like, I need my Bram fix,
Yeah.
And so I had, I like hosting people. I've hosted Mark Klein out here. I did some, I called them the next three, kind of based off the big three with George, Wally, and Remy. And I did next three with Stan Miller, Mark Klein, and Dan Anderson. Did a couple of those. So I like, even though it's kind of, being a promoter is a little bit stressful, but I really enjoy bringing all those people together and training and like sharing what they know with other people who are willing to show up. So when it came to Bram, I was like, well, he's not doing his birthday camp thing anymore. I was like, I want to do it. And so it was one of those where it's like, I approached him. I said, I think this is, I'd like to do this. Let's do it. And at first it was going to be out at Malala. My family has property out there. And so I was like, it will literally be a camp. Like we can throw up.
Everybody's literally out there camping.
Yeah. I was like, it'll, I said, I'll get some porta potties. It's right on the Malala River. There is a cabin, we can throw up tents. I'll buy tents and just rent spots to people or, and so of course that was thrown out by the rest of the family, but, so we ended up doing it at the local school, but I was like, no, this is great. And it's just become a yearly thing. And, with his, last protege, she kind of screwed him over. I was like, no, he is such a good person. I couldn't let that happen, and,
He's one of the most giving guys I've known.
yeah.
Sure.
And it's one of those, and he and I have talked about it. He's giving to a fault.
Yeah.
But I just couldn't see him. I couldn't see that him fail in that, or, basically allow her what she did to kind of overtake him and whatever. Cause I mean, they were in charge, or she was in charge, or she and her husband were in charge of his website. So all of a sudden his website's gone.
I didn't know that.
It was just like, it's like, it wasn't one of those things that I was like, hey, I'll promote him out here. I'll do his birthday bash. I think that's going to be fantastic. And that's fun. I did not expect or even see myself doing what I do for him today. So
it evolved.
It totally evolved, but it's been worth it. It's been worth it.
Yeah, it's really cool. That's one of the things that Steve Golden used to do. Steve Golden used to do his Golden Camp out in Silver Falls every couple of years or whatever. And that's what I really enjoyed about that. I really enjoyed that because it was people from all over the United States with a common goal to train. And what they did there was more of an open forum. Steve would show some techniques and stuff, but it wasn't like a seminar type of thing. We did some seminar stuff, but then it was kind of like a mix and match of talking about it and training together, and a little more of an open forum. But that's what I like about the birthday bash thing, is that it's people from everywhere. It's, I get to train with you guys that I see pretty often, at least once a year or more. But I also get to meet people that are, like you said, from Connecticut or whatever, from across the United States. I love to train with everybody.
Yeah.
So it's really cool, the format.
Yeah, this year we've got people already pre-registered from Florida, Connecticut. There's like I was telling you before we went live, there was a group that did it virtually last year, but are going to show up in person this year. So, and we're even doing the virtual thing again this year. So it's going to be, people could literally tune in from all over the world. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. So we've got a couple of people commenting. I hadn't really promoted it earlier. I usually kind of forget this stuff, but if you're watching, please say who you are and where you're tuning in from. But we have Nick Rummel.
Hey, Nick.
Here we go. I've always appreciated Bobby's willingness to embrace other styles and find out what works in each system. And then Dwayne Thompson. Much respect to Sifu Stroup. He learned so much from him over the years, and I'm proud to have him as one of my teachers in the martial arts.
Shit. Thanks, Wayne. Yeah, Nick has been one of my guys for a long time, and he lives up in Portland. He's a good jiu-jitsu guy these days. He's been doing jiu-jitsu for a long time. Nick's amazing martial arts in his own right, and Dwayne is, I believe, a 5th degree black belt. If I'm wrong, Dwayne, please don't message me and tell me I'm a jerk. I believe he's a 5th degree underneath our instructor, Bob Suttles. And Bob, I owe a lot to Bob too. Bob introduced me to a lot of people. Bob taught me a lot of things, and Bob was kind of like a dad to me for a long time. So that was, and Dwayne is honestly like a brother because he was in that family, me, him, and Bob a lot of times. So Dwayne is a fantastic martial artist. He doesn't give himself, one of those guys that doesn't give himself enough credit in martial arts. He's really amazing martial artist as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah, fantastic guy. I've been fortunate enough to all my friends and martial arts family are honestly those kind of people that you can, if you're down and out, or if you need something, or if a tornado came and picked up your place and moved it somewhere else, they'd help you in a second. So every one of them.
Yeah, I feel really fortunate for the people that I've run into over the years through martial arts. And it's even, knowing somebody, like you meet somebody and it's like, oh yeah, I've done that before. I've trained with him. And so you have that connection. Like I'm going out to Indiana to teach in a couple weekends. I think it's the third, what is the 22nd, 23rd out in for Jim Korn's camp.
Okay.
And
oh yeah, I saw that flyer. Yeah.
Yeah, I went there a couple of years ago, and I was actually doing. I was wanting to film some interviews for one of my Cusho Corner episodes, and so I reached out to Jim, say, "Hey, you know, I want to do this interview with you. Would you mind?" And so I said, "Oh, you know, we could do it virtually, you know, through whatever." Facebook Messenger. I didn't do Zoom at the time or this, but it was like I gave him some different options. He goes, why don't you just fly out here? And I was like, sure.
Yeah.
And there were people I knew because Mark Klein was there, but he was really the only person I knew. And I knew of Jim Korn, but it was all of these other people that I hadn't met before. We all had something in common. And it was like you just kind of walk into that family reunion of people you hadn't seen forever, even though you'd never met them. And everyone's accepting. Everyone is. I mean, it was so great. So I feel really fortunate to be going back out there this year. And I'm actually, awesome. And I got to teach that time too, because Jim was like, "Here, you can come out, you can teach," and then which actually it was funny because I taught modular, but through Cusho in there because he's like because it's a Cusho camp, so he's like as long as you teach a few pressure points along, you can teach whatever you want. I don't care. I was like, oh, that's okay, awesome. Cool. So I actually taught modular, but was instead of the follow up being a cut or whatever, it was a strike into a lock utilizing pressure points. It was fun.
That's awesome. Yeah, it sounds like I had asked Brahm quite a few years ago because, like I said, I spent a lot of time with trying to show that traditional martial arts for a lot of MMA gyms and a lot of MMA guys that I know, traditional martial arts are bullshit. Mm-hmm. Plain and simple. They don't believe it. They don't like it. And I train a lot of what I deem as MMA methodology, mixed martial arts methodology, because I like how they train. They train no bullshit. They train 75, 80% to make sure that their techniques work. They pressure test it. They do all those things. And for me, that's a lot of things that you have to do. But I had been teaching a version of the modular system that I told Braun that I was going to do that was based off of striking for like MMA stuff. So it was like a Panantukan, like a Pangama type of a thing, like a Filipino boxing version of the modular system that I told Braun that I was going to do. And he was like, yeah, that was one of those things. He's like, oh, you're doing what? Yeah, go for it. No, totally do that. That'd be a great idea. So that was cool.
Yeah. Well, when it comes to modular, it's one move, many tools.
Yeah.
So it could be empty hand, it could be impact, it could be bladed, it could be projectile. It all, one move, many tools. But he and there was a guy based out of Spokane. And I think there's a guy I think Bram told me he's a guy in Germany that really kind of took it and ran with it, that does modular knife or not modular gun. But
oh yeah, is that Fran? I forget his last name. I don't want to butcher it as well. That's why I'm not.
Yeah, no, it is that guy. Okay. I'll bring it. I'll bring his name up here so we can we can reference back to it. Get on Facebook, but he but Bram doesn't teach a lot of empty hand. I mean, he's all blade, and he'll show But when he does teach the empty hand translations, it's more it's more based towards the 1-4-12. He doesn't do it for any other of his modules. So it's one of those where, like I teach my art, but when I do like a self-defense class, I teach empty hand modular. Mm-hmm. Because it's easy to teach. It's really, like you could leave after an hour and know the principles of basic self-defense.
Yeah. I've I've taught that was that and Hubud
Mm-hmm.
are two of the drills that have been the easiest for me to blanket teach anybody. I don't care if you have no experience or if you're a black belt in Taekwondo or if you've done Filipino martial arts and you have an idea about it. Like it's been across the board. Those two have been kind of my easiest ones to teach to anybody.
Yeah.
To kind of make it easy. Kind of that. I mean, you can look at 1412. A 1412 can easily springboard into JKD trapping, or can easily springboard into Hubud, or it's and vice versa. It's been pretty easy.
All right. His first name's Florian.
Okay.
Last name Lahner. Lahner.
That is not who I was thinking of, but I know who you're talking about. Okay, I remember the name.
Okay. So, but he's one of Bram's guys.
Does he got glasses? Is that the guy I'm thinking of? I hate to, if you're out there, I hate to do that to you, but I'm trying to think of a particular person because I've seen him doing stuff with Bram, and it was gun based stuff. It probably is. I'm probably crossing wires.
Greg Berman. He's the guy that spaced out of Spokane. He kind of started that.
He was coming to the knife show here in Eugene. I remember him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he was kind of the one that kind of started that, the modular gun, and then I believe it was, if I'm not mistaken, Bram said that Florian was just like he had kind of taken those concepts and just ran with it. He goes, "Yeah, no, that's fantastic." So
nice.
Yeah.
I wish I had done more of that.
No, I've been teaching the modular stuff. Here we have a question from Young Smith. Young Smith he's actually one of my virtual students. He was in he actually was in a DojoCast or DojoChat a while back. He says, your thoughts on training with a wooden dummy?
So I have trained with the wooden dummy off and on, and I actually have my own design of the wooden dummy to fit my needs for that. I think that the wooden dummy, if utilized well, is actually a pretty good training tool. The dummy that I designed, I was able to you're able to, it's when I show people the wooden dummy, and then I've done Wing Chun, some Wing Chun, so showing them some of the Wing Chun stuff, and then you kind of go off into the JKD stuff, and then you go on to how you use it with Filipino martial arts, and then I think that if you can utilize a wooden dummy well. I think you can. There was not a lot of times that I have put pads on it because I've conditioned my hands to like kind of the traditional way. I started out doing iron palm training with Dick Burrows back in the day. So we do that, but it's good conditioning. I think that the wooden dummy, with a little bit of changing, like Two on Curly Warden has a great wooden dummy out there. His Silent Fighter, is that what it's called?
Silent Fighter.
His Silent Fighter is really cool. Like there's a lot of, if you look out there's a lot of versions of it. And I've had a lot of good training with wooden dummy. I think I have since I closed down my gym, I think I have 2 in storage. I should break one out and put one up somewhere. But I've always liked it. I think that people that see a wooden dummy as not a very good training tool are limited in their creativity, I think.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I never specifically never trained Kung Fu. but where that kind of comes from. So I never really had a wooden dummy. And actually, when it comes to Kelly's Silent Fighter, I've seen him online. Bram has one on his porch. They had him. I went up to the last year's Water and Steel that they did in the park. They had a couple there. So, and it's actually pretty cool. But for me, I never used one for training.
Yeah.
But I found that I needed something like, his Bram also has kind of a cutting dummy that he kind of built himself that's kind of next to his silent trainer. So I looked at wooden dummy designs to see how I could make one for, so I could kind of create my own cutting dummy. And so I've, kind of taking that concept, that's what I did. And even Young, he said, yeah, I made my, he says he built his own with his own preferences.
Yeah.
And he's posted a couple videos and it's actually pretty cool. He's got baseball bats that come off to the side,
See, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's,
So,
that's sort of thing. Like, I've seen like the cutting dummies you're talking about that had like little boards. There's like little boards in certain spots. So you know how the arms come off,
right?
So you're passing and stabbing. You're passing and cutting those. You're passing and cutting those, like, or stabbing those spots. Or they'd have like little pads on the arms, so you're cutting the arms as you go. And then I've seen some of those that were added to wooden dummies. So cut and stab, or push and stab. It was pretty cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
See, that's what I like. I like about that creativity. You make it fit your demands.
Yeah. Well, my first harness instructor, she had basically taken like an old shirt, an old pair of pants, and stuffed it with foam and just hung it up in her backyard and used that for stick training.
Okay, all right, I see that. Yeah.
So
that's a little different, but I like that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So
I've seen a lot of guys. You can go to any Les Schwab, and the tires that they're giving away.
Yeah.
Because they'll give you, they used to, at least they'll give you beat up old tires. And we used to do that. We said bolt tires to trees, or make stands. I've seen mukjongs. I've seen wooden dummies with some tire around them for sticks, for hitting them, beating the hell out of them with sticks.
Cool.
Yeah.
Right on.
All sorts of crazy stuff you can do with. Where there's a will to beat it up, there's a way.
Okay, so total left turn at Albuquerque.
Okay, here we go.
You're a geek like me.
Yeah, more times than not.
That's something that I know that we have in common. What kind of turns you on about that? I mean, that what about that, like the science fiction type of genre, interests you?
I think a lot of that goes to hand in hand with my art, because I draw a lot, or I did when I was a kid, and art was actually what brought me to like comic books. I had tons of comic books. I think I had a couple thousand comic books when I was a kid, and I just loved comic books. And it was a natural progression from comic books and Star Wars. I got the, where is it? I got the Star Wars tattoos on my hand.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, I got the light, the dark and the light. And it's just it was imagination. I always had imagination. I was always drawing. I think there was one time where I had eighth grade, I had a teacher that hated me. She just did not like me for whatever reason. The rest of my teachers were fine. So she called a meeting with all my teachers. And she called my mom in there. My mom was kind of like, my mom is a very nice lady. She's not, I'm not gonna say proper, but she doesn't really cuss. She's really, pretty mild mannered. And she was just kind of perturbed by the whole thing. And she was like, why are we here? And the lady was like, because all Bobby does is draw in class. He's drawing superheroes and aliens and all sorts of stuff. And that's all he does. And my mother goes, "What's his grade?" And she goes, "Well, he's got an A." Well, she goes, "So what's the matter?" She's like, "Well, he's not paying attention." She's like, "Yeah, but he's getting the work done, right? He knows the stuff." And she's like, "Yeah." And she looked at everybody else and she goes, "Do any of you other teachers have any problem with Bobby drawing?" And they're like, "No." And she's like, "Okay, I'm leaving. This is ridiculous." So that's what I did when I was a kid. It was just always, I've always had this creative nature, this fanatical creativity in my head, which has honestly helped me a lot with the martial arts because I'm always thinking scenarios or things, or ask any of my guys. I'm always like the Mook Jong. I decided to Mook Jong because it was like I needed something else. So it was creativity. And when it comes to science fiction, when it comes to all these science fiction and fantasy and all those things, it was unlimited. It's unlimited what you can if you go, you just go for it, and it's anything. The world is your oyster. There's no rules or regulations. So I just kind of always dug it as a kid.
Yeah. So
Yeah, and then I'm one of those dorks that, um, man, I'm sure I believe in Loch Ness monster and Bigfoot and ghosts and aliens. I think it's more fun that way. You know what I mean? It's cool. It's cool to think that maybe there is something out there. Maybe there's something neat going on in the universe or whatever. So what? That's kind of fun.
yeah, and maybe Bigfoot is actually Chewbacca.
And maybe Bigfoot is actually. I have yet to actually read that whole story, although I'm familiar with it. I have yet to actually read the actual story itself. But yes, I would like to think that Chewie is a Bigfoot. Chewie's Squatch Baka, as as it were. I would like to think that. Uh, but
Okay. So you've gone as far as tattooing Star Wars stuff on your body.
yes,
Uh Star Wars over Star Trek or vice versa?
no, sir. Star Wars over Star Trek.
Okay.
Uh, Star Trek when I was a kid was just a little, you know, it goes back to martial arts again. Star Wars had the Jedi, and the Jedi were basically samurai.
Yeah.
Basically, you know what I mean? And Kirk, although his double chop was formidable, it was just not the same thing for me.
Okay.
Star Wars was a little more gritty, it was a little more dirty. You know what I mean? It was a little more kind of get in there, and it was a little more emotional for me. Um, Star Trek, though, as I've gotten older, I mean, I do like the newer stuff because they get a little more real to it. It was a little more. It was a little more. How can I say it nicely? Star Trek for me was a little more D&D geek and a little less martial artist
Okay.
For me.
Okay. No,
Um,
and that analogy, that's an interesting analogy because growing up, I wasn't allowed to get into martial arts.
okay.
So I didn't start until I was 18. And actually let me step back. I was allowed to get into the martial arts, but it was limited to judo. And the
Okay.
only reason I was allowed to do judo is because my step uncle, he was a judo guy. Actually, Jason Ledke, you may know him.
I know the name, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, because he did judo, that was the only thing my dad was like, well, Jason does it. That's what I know. So you can do that if you want to get in the martial arts. And I was like, I want to hit people. I don't want to roll around on the ground with people,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, yeah,
And so I was more of that D&D type
yeah,
of geek, you
yeah.
know?
Oh, don't get me wrong. I
No,
played D&D.
no,
Don't get me wrong.
but I think that's funny because before I got into martial arts, that's what I was doing. That's, I was
Yeah,
that geek going to Star Trek conventions, and I like both,
yeah,
Star Trek and Star Wars. But if I was if I was asked, they're putting out a new Star Wars film versus a new Star Trek film, I'd probably go see the new Star Trek film first.
yeah.
You
Well,
know,
that was, it's Yeah, see, I hate to say, I hate to comment a whole lot on it because you tread on thin ice with a lot of these things. Um, it was more. You could see. Let's put it in video game terms.
Okay.
You could see Star Trek being more of a strategy game,
Okay.
and then you could see Star Wars being a little bit more of a first person RPG type of a thing. I mean, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. Like
Yeah.
you're exploring, you're doing these things. There's diplomatic things. There's all these things. Although there's an underlying of that in Star Wars. Star Wars is more action.
Yeah.
It's more right now. And that was just kind of thing that I kind of, like I said, it was mostly the the samurai aspect of it, the martial arts aspect of it for me when I was a kid. Uh, and actually, that's what hell Star Wars helped broaden my horizon on a lot of things. Um, Star Wars, when I found out that one of the influences for Star Wars was it the Lost Fortress from Akira Kurosawa. I didn't even really know Akira Kurosawa, who he was at that point. So then I started going out and watching his movies. And ran in Seven Samurai. I mean, come on, it doesn't. You know what I mean? Like those are some amazing movies, and I never would have known
Absolutely.
that if it wasn't Star Wars. And just getting into those things, Star Wars actually opened my world to a whole lot of things. Maybe it made me think about other things. And like I said before, like with the martial arts stuff, I'm one of those people that once I get to like something, I want to know absolutely everything about it. So it's like, okay, well, you know, it was with Remy Presses and started to learn more about it with Brahm and that sort of thing. Brahm and Kelly and Dan Anderson and they started showing their takes on some of the modern East. Well, after that, I had to go check it out because I wanted to see where it came from and where it was. And then for me, it's I want to know, well, where did Remy Presses? Who did he train with? Because for me, what I would do with martial arts that I would train is I would take that lineage back as far as I could, because if I knew where something came from, I understand where I'm at better.
Hmm.
So Star Wars was the same thing. I went back to watch these Akira Kurosawa movies. I wanted to know where George Lucas got some of his ideas. Being an artist, I loved the concept art and those things. I went and checked it out because I wanted to see how it evolved to where it is now. And for me, all those things helped me understand it better. It brought me closer to it. Um, and Yeah, and then don't get me wrong, I do like Star Trek. It's just if I had a preference.
Yeah. But you know what? We can still be friends.
We can have our differences, Mish. It's okay. Uh, yeah,
Oh,
yeah, I have that. Especially since I have the tattoos. Um, and I was like I said, I was a bartender and a server for a long time. So I was a bartender that served. So it's like I bring plates out to the table and I put my plates down, and those are your hands are there, and people would comment on them. You know what I mean? Yeah, they'd be like I have my fingers tattooed too, and then people never say anything about them. But 9 times out of 10, if you have anything to do with geek stuff, you're gonna notice my hand tattoos, and you're gonna say, "Hey, that's really cool, man." Like I'd get that more times than not. You have Star Wars tattooed on your hands. I was like,
yeah.
yeah, or when I'm training, when I'm doing jujitsu with Nogi, I have Batman on my leg, and
Okay.
it's kind of like a shadow of Batman, but he's got Joker's smile.
Ooh.
Yeah, so I have that one on my leg too, and geek stuff, man, dork stuff. And I as I got older, I got away from it for a long time, and then as I got older, you stop caring as much when you get older. You're like, yep, I'm gonna get back to my geek stuff. So in my 40s, I got back to playing video games and looking at comic books and drawing again. So
Yeah. I think I bought my first comic book in probably 20 years just last week.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I haven't gotten that far into it. It was a series of comics books. I just bought it in the hardback graphic novel that I guess it was like 6 or 7 comics, but it's called shoot, I can't remember the title. Anyway,
Well, you haven't gotten that far into it.
I haven't gotten I essentially got 2 issues into it, but it's a Superman story.
Okay.
It is and it was so funny because I'll geek out at the local Dutch when I go through in the morning. And there's 2 guys that will talk Star Wars, comic books, or Star Trek. And so I was talking to Xander, one of the guys, and he's, we were talking about the new Superman and Lois TV series.
Oh, okay.
And I only ever saw the first episode.
I haven't seen any, but I know what you're talking about.
Really good. Really
okay.
good. I really like the way I like the story change. I mean, I like, and it was written well. That's my big thing, is that I don't care if they retcon something. It has to be written well. I don't want to be, it has to be a good story. It has to have good character development. I don't want to be preached to, I don't care if there's, some new wokeness in it, but I don't want, it has to be written well, and it has to be believable. And so for me, the first episode of Superman and Lois, really, really good. So we were talking about this, and he had mentioned this one Superman comic that takes a kind of a different approach with Superman, where he's just he's this dumb kid from Kansas who has superpowers, and his struggles with it. And it's something American. It's like shoot. I wish, actually, you know what? I'm gonna run and get it. Hold on a second.
Do it. That's funny. But I'll do a little something for you guys while he's on.
Okay. It's this one.
Okay.
American Alien.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a really good story so far. I just haven't. I've been so consumed with other stuff that I started reading it. And I was like, okay, and then I'll be like, okay, I want to read some more. It's like, no, I'm really tired. I need to go to work in the morning. No, I'll read it later. So that's one of my goals for this weekend is finishing that. But
awesome.
It's a good story. I mean, just so like even with Star Trek, the next movie that's coming out, there's been Paramount just announced that they're going to have something going, but they're not telling us yet. But honestly, as bad as Into Darkness was, because that was just a copy and paste from Wrath of Khan, and a really bad one at that. And in the Kelvin universe, it's not that bad. But when I heard that Quentin Tarantino was going to do a Star Trek,
whoa, man.
And I was like, dude, it doesn't even have to involve Kirk. It just, if it was just in the universe, that would be awesome.
That would be so, and I'm not even, like I said, I'm not even that much of a Star Trek guy, but Quentin Tarantino doing Star Trek would be awesome.
Yeah.
That would be so cool. I can only imagine where that would go. It's, okay, let's hold on. Let me preface this, or put this little asterisk in it. It's either going to be really good or really bad. It's either going to be one of those where you're like, what was he doing? It is so Quentin Tarantino, or else you're just going to be like, this is just, how did we not do this before?
Yeah. And I could I could see one of those where, it might even be taken like The Last Jedi. Either you like it or you hate it.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
But as a Quentin Tarantino fan, I mean, some of his stuff, like I think all of his stuff is amazing, but there are some of his things that are just downright horrible.
I'm a Quentin Tarantino fan too, and I've loved all of his stuff. But there are parts and things where you sit there scratching your head for a second.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, sure.
Yeah. So, and I go all the way back. I was introduced, I was working at a restaurant, and I had this guy that I hung out with, Darst. Don't know, I can't remember his last name, but he comes in and he's like, Mish, there's a movie down at the Coin Cinemas. It's a limited release. It's only showing there. You have to watch this movie. It's amazing. So I was like, okay, sure, let's go. And it was Reservoir Dogs.
Oh yeah. Uh-huh.
And so I was blown away. I was like, how could this be? This is like fantastic,
It is.
And so when I think of a new Star Trek movie, I think of Reservoir Dogs,
Oh, I can see that. That's what I would love to see I'd love to see something like that. That would be, because I mean, every single Quentin Tarantino movie has a little bit of M. Night Shyamalan, and it has a little bit of a I wasn't seeing that twist coming.
Yeah.
Type of, every single one of them.
Yeah.
Has a little something to it. And what I like about him is, it has a little something to it that is a twist here and there, but he's got things in the background that are showing you that twist the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh yeah, why didn't you see that from the beginning? Because it's been here. It's been in your face the whole time. Duh. Yeah. It's been awesome. Oh yeah, I can't wait. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see what comes of that. But I'm looking forward to the Boba Fett show, the book of Boba Fett.
I'm looking forward to a lot of those ones that are there. I'm looking forward to them getting back into the Old Republic stuff. There's a lot of things there that they're going to start making canon that are. I think there's a whole richness of story. Again, like I said about research stuff, man, I started looking like way back to the history of the Jedi and like back to when the Sith started and all those things. So I'm really looking forward to them actually putting that stuff on screen.
Yeah. Well, there's a guy that I follow. I can't remember if it's Star Wars Theory or if it was somebody else on YouTube, but he talked about how George Lucas is actually, like, when it comes to expanded universe stuff, Thrawn. I mean, we already kind of knew Thrawn and Thrawn now is not going to be what is it? He's not considered expanded universe because he showed up in Rebels, and hopefully he'll be in the Ahsoka series. But stuff from the Heir to the Empire, like early stuff,
that'd be
that Jon Favreau, and they want to do scenes with Luke Skywalker and Thrawn.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And they want to do scenes with
are you talking about that? I think you talking about Mike Zero. Is that the channel?
It could be it could be Mike Zero.
Yeah.
I don't watch him a lot because I don't like he has good information, and I've gotten used to his cadence. But it's his cadence where I'm just like,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
yeah, there's honestly a couple of guys, I forget the name, but there was a couple of guys and that's even with martial arts stuff where I just quit watching them because I was just like, there was nails on a chalkboard type of thing. I was like, you're just going, I can't handle the cadence, or I couldn't handle the voice.
Oh, my wife, early on when we were dating, and even after we were shortly married, or married shortly after we were married, she knew I was watching a George Dillman video because, of course, his voice is very familiar, but she's like, I can't stand his voice. I hate his voice. I'm like, yeah, he is. And it never really bothered me. It's just like, well, this is just George, you know? So I'm, you know, it is what it is. But yeah, she just couldn't. She's like, could you just not watch this here now? Can you watch it later? I really don't like his voice.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's like there's a lot of with the Star Wars stuff, there's a lot of things that are coming. Shit, man. I mean, when the Luke Skywalker thing happened with the Mandalorian, I'm not gonna lie, I teared up.
Oh, I cried too.
I was like, I can't believe this is happening. I had to go back to it. I think I watched it 5 times.
Yeah. Because and the thing is when you see the X-Wing fly around the ship, you're just like, and they're like, oh, who would only bring one X-Wing? And you're like, no way.
Yeah.
No.
Yep. I think that's exactly how that happened, literally.
And then you see the green lightsaber go up, and it's just like stream.
Yeah. I wish that I was watching alone. I just wish there was somebody here that you could grab onto the shoulder and it was just so good. And it's like, I'm not, where you had so many people that as soon as it came out, the Star Wars dorks, like there's been so many people that are associated with Star Wars, making the movies, the comics, and all that thing, that say the worst thing about Star Wars is the fans. Because the fans are just so critical. And there were so many people that are like, I didn't believe the CGI. Luke Skywalker didn't look good. And I was just like, screw you guys. This is a thing I've been waiting for 30 years plus years. And it was amazing to be able to watch this.
Yeah. I mean, okay. So it wasn't that great, and Deepfake did it better. But it doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't matter in the slightest.
Like it's I almost look at it as watching original Star Trek episodes. And I don't know how long ago it was, maybe 10 years ish, maybe it's probably more, but they went back through all of the Star Trek, the original Star Trek, and redid all of the special effects. So it's not, so when you see the ship come in and orbit a planet, it's all CGI. It's not, so the special effects are a lot better. The green hand coming up to grab the Enterprise, it looks so great.
Yeah,
but I prefer to watch the original. I don't mind bad special effects.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's like Evil Dead. Evil Dead is just as good. You know what I mean? Like the original one with all the bad special effects. I think it actually put something more into it than when Bruce Campbell redid it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like it just as well. Although, and there's a shout out to Bruce Campbell. How can you not love Bruce Campbell? So.
Oh, I know. Totally. Even when he played somebody outside of what he normally plays in what was that show on Burnt? Oh shoot. I'm totally getting the show wrong. But it was about that one CIA guy that yeah, and he kind of played a side, not really a sidekick, but one of his contacts.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So
yeah, I had a kick in the knackers. What was the last year where I had posted something on Facebook about one of my favorite movies, The Last Dragon, and Show Enough was I forget the name of the character, but Show Enough was his not necessarily a sidekick, but it was like a sidekick in Briscoe County Jr.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, how did I not put these two things together? Briscoe County Jr. was a great show, and then his dude that's with him, his sidekick, is Show Enough from Last Dragon. How did I not know this? I felt so bad.
So Nick Rummel says Burn Notice. Yes, that is the show. It had Burn Notice. I got half of it right.
Yeah.
Yes, it was Burn Notice.
And Nick's a dork.
Oh yeah. Okay, good.
Well, nicknamed his first son. He named his son Han Solomon. That is his son's name.
That's
Yep.
awesome. That's
That is
awesome.
totally awesome.
So my eldest Ashton, when I got when Lisa and I started talking about kid names, I always told her that I wanted my first son's name to be James Penn. Penn because that's my middle name, and James because that's James Kirk.
Yeah, I figured. Okay, yeah.
And so my wife is like, no, I don't think I could do a kid named James. And it wasn't like name him after James Kirk. She just didn't decide. I just don't know about the name James. So so his name is Ashton James Penn. And so it's one of those where it's like, oh, where does James come from? He's like Captain Kirk, but he is a total geek as well. It was so funny because raising him, it was one of those, even though Power Rangers was martial arts related, it was just so bad that I was just like, I don't want my kid influenced by that. Barney was there. I didn't want my kid influenced by Barney. Teletubbies, I was like, no. And so there was all these negative influences that I didn't want, but he took to the Power Rangers like nobody's business. And I was like, okay, out of all of them, that actually isn't that bad. And even now, like, he's an adult. He actually has his own kid on the way. And, he's out there buying helmets, like the Power Ranger helmets. Yeah. He discovered the comic book store down in downtown Vancouver. I Love Comics. So he now goes there all the time and is buying up all these different comics. Yeah, he's a geek. So
my son is almost 1 year old. My son is almost 1 year old, and he was born on May 15th, but he was supposed to be due on May 10th. So I was like, if he shows up on May 4th, I was like, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna flip out. This is gonna be crazy. As I swear to God, I'm naming him Anakin or something along those lines.
Yeah.
And she wouldn't go for it. But still, that he showed up on the 15th. But I had faith.
So May 15th?
May 15th is my son's.
Okay, that's my wife's birthday.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that's nice. Cool. Yeah, no, with each of our kids, we've really, I tried to influence something. So our middle son, he goes by Winston now because that's his first name, but his middle name, Lucas.
Okay.
Wonder where that's influenced from.
Yeah.
My daughter, though, all of the different, names that I threw out there, I was totally knocked down. Like Padme was out. Amidala was out. Uhura was out. I told her, I said, well, we could name her Amidala, and then she could just go as Amy for short. No one would really never know. Perfect. Yeah. No, but my wife, she liked the nickname Lexi, so we had to come up with like a proper name that Lexi could be short for. So she's Alexa, but she goes by we shorten it just to Alexa because she actually hates Lexi. She hates that nickname, which is really funny because she's 15.
Gotcha. Okay, I can see that then.
Yeah. She hates Lexi, but Lexa, Alexa, of course, her full name. I like to call her Lex sometimes because she's evil.
I was gonna say, is she diabolical?
Yeah. But it's funny with her name now that we have, now that Amazon has the Amazon Alexa. We actually had one for a while. And they'd be like,
oh, nice.
And even one of her teachers, it's like, yeah, I ask you for the weather every morning. But I wanted to get her shirts made that, just because she is totally a product of me and her mother. of some of the lines that Alexa does say, where it's like, I'm sorry, I can't help you with that. Or
That's awesome. Yeah, I got lucky with my daughter's mom's family are all a bunch of they love Star Wars. They're a bunch of Star Wars dorks, and they like Harry Potter.
yeah.
So my daughter's really into all that stuff too.
Yeah. My daughter likes Harry Potter. I got her into Star Trek. She's not as big as a fan of it as I am, but I remember she was like, let's watch something on TV. And I said, okay, well, let's watch Star Trek. And she goes, oh, really? And because Ashton, he prefers Star Wars.
Okay.
My eldest prefers Star Wars. And so
he's got good taste.
Huh?
So he's got good taste,
yeah.
All right.
And Winston, he's just not a geek, so he didn't get any of it. But I told her, I said, look, I said, let's watch the first episode. We'll watch the first episode, and then we can watch something else after that, but just give it a chance, because she had never really sat down and watched it. And this was several years ago. And so we sat down and we watched the first episode that was aired, the Man Trap, where it's the salt monster, and she loved it. She just thought that was she's just like, that is just so great. And so so we watched the entire series, and she's I have a project coming up starting in September. We're going to be watching a year of Trek. But what she wants to do is she wants to categorize or count all the different all the different ways Kirk is a whore or is a hoe.
That is
like
awesome.
like how many times in the series did he have sex? Because there are a couple episodes where he's putting on his boot, so you totally know.
There.
But then there's other times where it's like, well, did he really? Is it it's all subjective. So she's like, no, I want to rewatch all the episodes and be like, yep, this episode he did this episode he did that.
that is I condone that, and that's an admirable project, I believe. Yeah, my dork thing recently is I decided that it started with the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and then I went back and watched all the Captain America movies, and I decided I'm going to go buy an expensive, durable Captain America shield and do all the Filipino martial arts drills and stuff with just the shield by itself as a defense and offensive weapon. How would I use the Captain America shield just as a shield in itself? Like with boxing and grappling and all that stuff, how would I do it? So I decided that I did this last week. I decided that's what I'm going to do.
See,
so that's my latest geek project.
Okay, so it is geeks like you and me, because I've also got something sci-fi coming up. I'm doing an expanded episode of Cusho Corner, but it's based off of a video I put up 6 years ago. But it's taking the something from sci-fi and fantasy and bringing it into the real world.
Hell yeah.
Making it work.
Yeah.
And so my most watched video on my YouTube it's about a minute and a half of me showing the Vulcan nerve pinch. It's got awesome. 80,000 views. No, 83,000 views. And I've gotten some just oh, that's so cool, or bullshitto, or you're an idiot, it's fake. And I with that, a snippet of that video actually ended up in a fake video, a bullshit martial artist compilation video, which I think is really funny. But yeah, it's like that. It's like, okay, well, I got turned on to pressure points, and I was like, wait a minute, pressure points, Mr. Spock, nerve pinch. Hey, this could be a thing.
Yeah.
So you taking the Captain America shield, it's like total.
Hey, just, I started thinking about it, and then, from my experience in boxing and striking, like with my striking, because I was a littler dude, I had to make everything count. So I have studied striking arts from anybody and everybody,
Yeah.
that'll, if you have this, like you, Bish, if you have a secret way that when you're bouncing or something, a striking technique that you like, I'm going to ask you about it at some point when we get together. But I take all these different striking things, I put them together. So I was thinking about it. He utilizes his right hand. He has left hand. You're covering. Well, now I can't see my opponent. It's not like a peekaboo guard. I can't see my opponent. So then I started going through it, and I started, okay, well, what am I? So I wanted to know, how can I fight with a damn shield, just the shield, no other weapon, just the shield. So I'm gonna figure it out, and I'll let you know.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. It was a dork thing, man. I was just like, I want to know, like, and I'm talking about trying to find a harness I can put on my back so I can do ukemi with it. I can do rolls, and just trying to figure out how I can use it as a personal weapon. Not that I'm ever going to, if anybody watches, not that it's ever going to see me walking downtown with a shield in my hand. But no, just dorking out. I'm just really curious.
Yeah.
So yeah, there you go.
Yeah, no, I think that's sweet.
That is my dork thing here recently.
Now, hopefully, Marvel and Disney won't try and take you down.
Yeah,
be like, "Ooh, I'm teaching a seminar." No, you can't go to the seminar. Well, because there was a group that did a Klingon martial arts book back in the early '90s. Bram was actually supposed to be part of the second book.
Okay.
I didn't know that until after several years of knowing Bram. But Paramount came in, they found out about the publication, and actually destroyed all the known books.
What?
Yeah, because it wasn't. Well, here's the thing: they dressed up as Klingons using batleth.
Okay, all right.
They used
copyright infringement.
So there was some copyright infringement. They didn't have any licensing, so it's one of those where it's like, yeah, I could totally understand.
Did I ever tell you about the seminars that I used to do around Halloween?
No.
I used to, almost every Halloween, I did it for a few times, I would do seminars on how to kill zombies.
Okay.
So they were based off of, like we're gonna do it Brahms thing, they were based off of Filipino martial arts machete work. And a lot of it was getting from your primary, say like I have an AR, getting from there to my weapon, manipulating Romero style zombies, throwing people around, movement, that sort of stuff. And I had a great time with it. And my seminars were, I think one time I had like 40 people or 30 people. Like, it's just, part of the seminar was teaching people how to be zombies, how they move, rules of engagement as a zombie. You can't do twitch response, stuff like this, like blah, blah, blah. But as the defender, these are your rules, the things you can't get bitten here. You got to watch what you're doing. I was doing 3-hour seminars on how to kill zombies. And I've been thinking about bringing them back.
That's so awesome.
They were really fun. And people were dressing up and stuff. And I was doing 3-hour seminars on how to kill zombies from Filipino martial arts machete work.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love it.
Years ago. Yeah. Anyway, sorry I cut you off, I think.
Yeah, no worries. No, I it's I think just in general, even looking into or looking at the martial art bullies. I think there is a very serious side, and you should take martial arts seriously. But I think sometimes we take it too seriously.
Yeah.
And especially the guys that go around and be saying, oh, that's a fake martial art, or, oh, that's bullshit. It's like, yes, there are some things that just don't work on the street.
Yeah.
Like the Vulcan nerve pinch. It's not going to work.
Yeah.
It's a demo.
Yeah.
The no touch knockout. It is not combat applicable, but it works great in a demo.
Yeah.
Taekwondo, it's a sport.
Yeah.
And so I think people, I don't know. I think people take stuff too seriously when it comes to that, and they don't look at the lighter side or what it could be. you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, I think I totally agree with you. I mean, I don't get me wrong. Again, like I said, I've spent a lot of years trying to train with those people and trying to prove those things that what I do in the martial arts work. I do love that side. I do love to get down and dirty and gritty and pressure test the things that I do 100%. But at the same standpoint, I think about shit like that, and I wanna know how I would personally fight with a shield,
Yeah.
or you know what I mean, or I mean, I've taken things and I've come up with things that actually turned out to be legitimate, good martial arts things that I've taught at seminars and things to guys that are in the know, to guys that are reality based martial arts that liked what I was doing, but it came from that. It came from I'm just really curious if this would work or not, or just what it was.
And I also think it would attract people who normally wouldn't get into the martial arts.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, dude, he's fighting with a Captain America shield. That's awesome. I want to learn to do that. And that person might end up getting the martial arts, bite. They
well,
might,
that was the zombie thing. That was the zombie thing.
And
the zombie
and
thing
the same
was
thing.
not martial artists. It was dorks. Dorks like, oh, I've seen every zombie movie there is. I got Max Brooks's books on zombie survival guide and all that shit, and came to it, and I was like, dude, you're doing these are real Filipino martial arts techniques that I just applied to something that's fantastic.
Yeah. And like that was like with the Makbara. The Klingon form. It's like
I watched that video. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, okay, well, here's some real applications out of it. In fact, because I started with that idea like years and years ago, and I actually had a lawyer write Paramount for licensing. I interested in licensing on doing this, and I got a letter back from Paramount saying, yeah, we're not going to support or condone that at all. So it's like, oh, okay, so how can because I wanted to have the Starfleet logo up. I wanted to, do all that, the Klingon logos, but I was like, well, if I do it in martial arts ski, they can't really say anything,
Yeah.
But it was one of those where it's like you're attracting people that wouldn't normally get into the martial arts with it was something that fits their taste.
Yeah.
Oh, and Nick said, Nick, he's chiming in, Miyagi-Do or Cobra Kai.
Oh man, why's he got to go there?
But again, that's a great example because how many people got into the martial arts when Karate Kid came out back in the 80s?
I am definitely guilty of one of those people that definitely had watched all of those movies, that definitely put in work, doing the rattle doll thing.
Yeah.
And I loved it all. I was a little kid sitting there in my yard with chopsticks trying to grab flies.
I don't think I ever went that far, but yeah, learning karate from Mr. Miyagi, be like, okay, wax on, wax off.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah, I was always those kids. I actually, I have always said, and this reigns true, and I will say this, and I say it with a lump in my throat and a pit in my stomach, that as far as martial arts movies go, I'm always more Jackie Chan than I am Bruce Lee.
Yeah.
Because Bruce Lee was always, and everything was really hard, and and he was kicking ass the whole time. And Jackie Chan had more of from a boxing framework. He covers like boxing, he does those things, but he's got kung fu in it, and he's always situational awareness. So I learned more from his movies, as far as if we're just gonna take like, oh yeah, man, I got this technique from Van Damme's movies, because I watched Kickboxer 1,000 times or whatever. It was always Jackie Chan's movies, stuff like Wheels on Wheels, and some of those movies where he's fighting Urquidez, that you're looking at some stuff that you could see really happen in the real world. And that was Jackie Chan was always more of an influence to me than Bruce Lee was.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I love that meme. I don't know how long it's been out. I just have recently seen it go around, but it's a picture of action stars and their stunt people. And
Oh
so
yeah.
and then there's a picture of Jackie Chan just
Yeah,
by
by
himself.
himself. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's
Yeah,
one of the one thing that really that uh, I like about Jackie Chan in his movies is he does it all himself.
Yeah.
And then when you get the other, action stars that are doing, like, he did most of his stunt work. Okay, well, to know that they did that, that's great.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people, it's like, okay, like even watching old Star Trek, like, and
Yeah.
it's so bad. Like you can, like, there's a couple scenes that, yeah, Kirk is, he's doing like a double jumping kick or something like that. But then when it pans out and you see the scuffle,
Yeah.
it's like that guy has too much hair for Shatner.
Yeah.
Or that guy has a different body style,
Yeah.
So
He has a beard. What is that all about? Yeah, no, I get
yeah.
it.
So
Yeah. Yeah, it was always and that's like admirable things like Keanu Reeves, which as another geek thing, Keanu Reeves has a comic book coming out that I would check out, Berserker. I'm looking forward to that comic book.
okay.
It's kind of like a I think if I remember right, it's like a post-apocalyptic fantasy-ish John Wicky type of a thing, but it's a comic book. But him training as much as he did for all those John Wick movies, where as opposed to he does his stunts and his scenes up to the point where the studio will allow him to get away with.
Right.
They're like, yeah, nah, your body's too insured to let you do this one, but so yeah, it is, and I'm really impressed with his shooting videos and stuff. That guy's good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Surprising.
And
Yeah.
isn't he I heard some rumor that he's supposed to be attached to some Star Wars. Like he's supposed to play, like, I want to say it's Darth Bane, but I could be totally mistaken.
I heard Ravon.
Oh,
Or
Riven. Oh, yeah. Okay, that must have been it.
That's what I heard. That's what I had read a couple of times that they had talked about, and then I read something where he was actually signed for it. So
Yeah.
not necessarily that character, but signed to a Star Wars project somewhere.
Right.
Yeah. So I would be looking forward to seeing that. That's for damn sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. We're at 97 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah. You know what? We could talk forever, and I have no problem doing that. But why don't we cut this short? We can always have you back on. I really thank you. I thank you for being part of this.
Thank you for reaching out, man, and having me. It's been fun.
Yeah. So, for anybody who's watching now or will watch in the future, how do they train with you? How do they get a hold of you?
You can always get. I mean, I can leave for you to put in wherever anything. I don't know if you can comments, whatever. You can always get a hold of me on my Facebook page. My email is just my first and last name, BobbyStroup@gmail.com. You can always get a hold of me. I can even put my phone number out there because I don't mind. You guys can call me at any time. I train me and my martial arts partner, Sifu Rich Whittle. We've been combining, collaborating, kind of putting our experiences together to bring up our own kind of stuff together. But I also teach at so is Rich. I teach at Grey Wolf Jiu-Jitsu on 99 in Eugene, Fairfield 99, and I teach at the Emerald Valley Mat Club, a little bit striking, some women's self-defense stuff there. And just, I'm a pretty open book, so you can get a hold of me. I actually honestly do I do a stick class, a single stick class with some guys at Monroe Park on Tuesdays at 6 o'clock. So if you want to show up to do some single stick or some knife work, I'm usually there in the park doing sticks.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I got some guys. I didn't really have my own dojo. I had a gym years ago, but when I got sick, I closed down my gym because I couldn't physically do it anymore.
Right.
And so now we go where we can. It's been the park by my apartment is kind of the place we've been going to.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Right on.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Okay.
And hopefully I'll get to see you soon in person. So
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Let's see. You said Tuesdays?
Tuesdays at 6
All right.
and at Monroe Park in Eugene.
Okay. That's a drive, but that's
That is
okay.
that is a drive. We usually do. Me and the guys will usually go. An hour always becomes an hour and a half, which sometimes becomes a couple hours just in
Oh,
the park.
yeah, totally. Okay.
Yeah.
So, I don't know when Carl. Okay. Carl Canthak. You know, Carl.
I do. Yeah.
This is have Bobby demo punching the brick wall behind him.
I mean, I could, I guess.
Yeah. I love Carl.
Another time.
Yeah.
Carl, I've shown Carl those guys. Yeah, some of the stuff I do with bare knuckle stuff is not just conditioning, it's structure.
Yeah.
So yeah. So we had a fun time.
Right on. So let's see. I'm gonna hide you for a second. So next week, same time, same channel. I'm gonna have Tom Gallo. He is a Q show guy from New York. He'll be on. So feel free to tune in then. Oh, wait a minute. Oh no. Oh, there we go. I don't know.
It's like, what'd you do?
Okay. Well, I thought I deleted you, but I guess I didn't. Thank God. Anyway, so it has been an awesome talk. I thank you for hanging out. And just like I always do this, if you have hung out this long and you have not subscribed, liked, well, actually, we got quite a few people kind of were viewing us today. Got some likes. But like this, share this, subscribe. If you're on Facebook, follow the page DojoChat. And as always, I'm Sensei Mish. Thank you to Bobby Stroup.
Thank you, sir.
All right, sir. I will